Moving northward, we can discuss here briefly the devastation ongoing in Syria. Beginning in 2010 with the Arab Spring movement, ideas of democracy and protesting against government rule spread from Tunisia eastward across Africa, but also into Syria. And a lot of this actually took place through social media, which is a very interesting thing that social scientists have been analyzing since, how this ideology has been really, really spread quickly over a large distance through social media. So you had these protests popping up all throughout this region, starting back with the Arab Spring in Tunisia. And this actually became very violent in Syria, led to a civil war that's still ongoing, and thousands of people being displaced currently. The Arab League, which is a kind of political economic organization among various countries in Southwest Asia, have suspended Syria from the organization until the conflict will die down and be resolved. And this is an ongoing crisis for refugees around the world, and it's even entered into mainstream debates in the United States whether or not the United States should allow Syrian refugees into the country. One of the world's larger refugee camps here in Jordan is the Za'atari refugee camp, with 80,000 Syrians living in it currently who've crossed the border to leave their country, while many others are still within Syria as internally displaced persons, another term we had kind of detailed and defined last chapter. Internally displaced persons are forced to move within their country, where a refugee leaves and exits their country to flee warfare. Moving eastward to get an idea of some other conflicts in the region, we can briefly analyze Iraq. United States was in Iraq until very recently, fought a war there and displaced the leader Saddam Hussein after our 2001 9/11 attacks. If we go back a little bit farther, we'll see that the modern-day borders of Iraq were established by European colonialization, and much like the problem we discussed with the Berlin Conference, is that these regions that were being created far away in Europe did not take into account local ethnic groups and tensions that had already existed. So within Iraq, this is a land that had tension already existing between Sunni and Shia Muslims, as well as another sector of Kurds, who, by the way, kind of occupy this territory in northern Iraq and parts of Turkey, but they have a cultural ethnicity that is similar and a language that is similar, and they have a land that they are actively trying to establish as a country, but they are one of the world's best examples of a nation without actual borders. They're basically a territory where you have people of the same ethnic group and culture, but aren't officially recognized as being their own country, overlapping with these other groups, and other political tensions in Iraq has led to some ongoing conflict and problems. Shifting back over, I don't have a map of it here, but kind of south into the Arabian Peninsula, which is mainly Saudi Arabia, we see that there's been changes there as well. It has until very recently been a nation that is not secular. It's closely tied to the Islamic faith, and it has been very conservative in that you had a lot of gender inequality, for instance, a lot of strict adherence to the Islamic faith, and necessary, mandatory, if you're a citizen of Saudi Arabia, to also be Muslim. We are seeing some of this change with a regime change that is expected. It may be loosening up its conservative views while still maintaining its Islamic influence and culture, but that's yet to be seen. If you move to the southwestern part of this Arabian Peninsula, you have the country of Yemen. We're not going to get into the details, but they've also been experiencing civil war and unrest among the Sunni and Shia for a period of time. Iran, our last location to analyze for many years, was the Persian Empire. They were able to actively keep Europeans from colonizing them during the same time they were colonizing other locations in this larger region. Today, they go by Iran instead of Persia. You have a Shia majority supporting Shia allied interests, and that has created some tensions with other locations that are more Sunni majority. Part of this tension, too, that involves the Western world and the United States is concern over their nuclear development programs and whether or not they have nuclear weapons. So that's an ongoing concern for the region. Currently, it sits where Iran, it's understood that they will be developing nuclear for their power, but United States and Europe is keeping a close eye, as well as other nations in this region who are closer by. So that's basically a quick summary of some geopolitical issues to give you a sense of conflict and culture throughout this region. We're going to break there for the video, and next we meet, we'll dive into Europe.